The opulent council chambers on the Vosgian homeworld of Psyloth hummed with an air of superiority as the representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations convened. At the head of the long, gleaming table sat Karn, the Galadarian High Counselor, his weathered features etched with a sense of smug self-assurance. Another report on the primitive humans, Karn announced, his deep voice carrying an edge of disdain. I grow weary of these constant updates on their pathetic attempts at technological progress. Psyloth, the Vosgian representative, nodded in agreement. Those barely evolved bipeds continue to delude themselves, thinking they can compete with our superior intellect and firepower. He let out a contemptuous laugh. Their crude weapons pose no threat to our mighty warships and shielding technologies. Around the table, the other council members murmured in assent, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright condescension. The humans, with their limited resources and fledgling space programs, were nothing more than an annoyance to be tolerated, not a true contender for galactic dominance. Arlen, the Escharan ambassador, leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted in a sneer. Perhaps we should simply ignore these human developments entirely. They are hardly worth the time and effort required to monitor their meagre achievements. Karn considered the suggestion, drumming his clawed fingers against the glossy tabletop. While I share your sentiment, Arlen, we cannot afford to be complacent. These humans have proven themselves to be remarkably resourceful and adaptable, even if their progress is painfully slow by our standards. He fixed the gathered representatives with a stern gaze. We must remain vigilant, lest they somehow manage to stumble upon technological advancements that could pose a genuine threat. Psyloth scoffed. Threat. The day humans pose a threat to the Galactic Council is the day I willingly submit to their primitive customs. He shook his head dismissively. No, we should focus our efforts on more pressing matters, expanding our trade networks, solidifying our defenses against the Xeno incursions, and advancing our own research into quantum computing and warp drive technologies. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the council chambers, and Karn allowed himself a thin, humourless smile. Very well. I will instruct our intelligence operatives to maintain a passive monitoring of human activities, but they are not to engage or interfere unless absolutely necessary. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. The humans are of little consequence. Their attempts at militarization are laughable, and we have nothing to fear from their primitive civilization. Arlen nodded, his scaled lips curling into a satisfied grin. Excellent. Let the humans continue their futile struggles. We have far more important matters to attend to. As the discussion shifted to other agenda items, the Galactic Council members remained blissfully unaware of the momentous changes that were quietly unfolding within the human civilization they so readily dismissed. In their arrogance, they had failed to recognize the spark of determination that burned brightly in the hearts of the people of Earth, a determination that would soon ignite into a flame that would forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy. In a top-secret laboratory complex, buried deep beneath the rocky terrain of the American Southwest, Dr. Michael Donovan hunched over a holographic display, his brow furrowed in concentration. The brilliant physicist had dedicated the better part of the last decade to a single, unwavering goal, proving the might of the human race to the arrogant members of the Galactic Council. Donovan's path to this moment had been a long and arduous one. As a young researcher at the forefront of quantum mechanics and plasma physics, he had been recruited by the US government to spearhead a clandestine weapons development program, one that would harness the most cutting-edge scientific breakthroughs to create a technological arsenal capable of challenging the galaxy's dominant powers. With an almost fanatical determination, Donovan assembled a team of the brightest minds from across the globe, each handpicked for their specialized expertise and unwavering commitment to the cause. Together, they worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of what was considered possible, driven by a shared vision of a future where humanity stood as an equal among the stars. The plasma cannon's energy output is still too unstable, Donovan muttered, his eyes scanning the readouts with laser-like focus. If we can't stabilize the reaction, the weapon will be unusable. A young woman with striking red hair stepped up beside him, her expression one of both concern and resolve. "We're close, Michael. I can feel it. The team has been working around the clock on the problem. If anyone can solve it, it's us." Donovan nodded, some of the tension easing from his shoulders. "You're right, Sarah. We've come too far to let a setback like this derail us." He straightened his shoulders, his gaze hardening with determination. "The Galactic Council may mock our efforts, but they will soon learn to fear the might of human ingenuity." Over the next several weeks, Donovan and his team pushed the limits of their knowledge, exploring uncharted realms of physics and engineering. They experimented with novel containment methods, adjusted the plasma flow dynamics, and even developed breakthrough shielding technologies to protect the weapon's volatile core. Finally, after countless late nights and heated debates, a breakthrough came in the form of a breakthrough in quantum entanglement stabilization. Donovan's eyes widened as he watched the test results, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "We've done it," he exclaimed, clasping Sarah's hand. "The plasma cannon is stable and ready for field testing. This changes everything." Sarah returned his smile, her own excitement palpable. "Just wait until the Galactic Council sees what we've created. They'll have no choice but to recognize humanity as their equal." Donovan's expression grew serious, his gaze narrowing. "And that is precisely what we intend to make them do. Summon the team. It's time to show the galaxy what Earth is capable of." In the days that followed, the laboratory hummed with a sense of nervous anticipation as Donovan and his team meticulously prepared for the upcoming demonstration. They fine-tuned the plasma cannon's targeting systems, tested the cloaking device that would conceal their true firepower, and ran countless simulations to ensure the success of their daring plan. Finally, the day arrived. Donovan took a deep breath, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "This is it, everyone. Let's go make history." As the transport ship carrying Donovan and his team lifted off from the secret facility, the brilliant scientist couldn't help but feel a growing sense of determination. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity's capabilities for far too long. Now it was time for them to face the true might of the human race, and Donovan was confident that the impact would be something they would never forget. The opulent council chambers on Tyloth were once again abuzz with activity as the Galactic Council convened. Karn, the Galadarian High Counselor, called the meeting to order, his weathered features etched with a hint of impatience. "We are gathered here today to witness a demonstration by the human representatives," he announced, his voice betraying a trace of condescension. "Apparently, they believe they have developed technologies worthy of our attention." Siloth, the Voshian representative, let out a derisive snort. "Worthy of our attention? I highly doubt it. These humans are little more than primitives playing at being civilized." He shook his head dismissively. "Their attempts at militarization are laughable at best." Around the table, the other council members murmured in agreement, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright disdain. The idea that the seemingly insignificant human race could possess anything of value to the Galactic Council was simply ludicrous. Suddenly, the doors to the chamber slid open, and a small group of humans entered, led by a tall, broad-shouldered man with piercing blue eyes. Donovan, the American scientist, stepped forward, his gaze unwavering as he faced the council members. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice calm and measured. "We have come before you today to demonstrate the technological capabilities of the human race." Karn leaned back in his chair, fixing Donovan with a condescending stare. "Very well, human. Proceed with your display, but do not waste our time with trivial parlor tricks." Donovan nodded, and with a gesture, his team sprung into action. Within moments, a series of holographic displays materialized, projecting images and schematics that left the council members stunned into silence. On the screens, gleaming spacecraft equipped with advanced plasma cannons and shielding systems maneuvered with precision, their firepower decimating even the most powerful of the Council's warships. Alongside these displays, schematics for cutting-edge cloaking devices and next-generation missile systems pushed the boundaries of what the Galactic Council had ever witnessed. Saloth's eyes widened in disbelief, his scales paling visibly. "Impossible," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. These weapons must be fabrications. There's no way the humans could have developed such technology." Arlen, the Esharn ambassador, was equally stunned, his reptilian features twisting in a mix of fear and confusion. But how? How have they achieved this level of advancement? Karn raised a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs of the other council members. His gaze, once dismissive, now held a glimmer of unease. "Explain yourself, human. Where did you acquire these capabilities?" Donovan stepped forward, a faint smile playing on his lips. "The technologies you see before you are the result of years of dedicated research and innovation by the brightest minds of the human race. We have pushed the boundaries of science and engineering, driven by a desire to prove our worth on the galactic stage." He paused, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the stunned council members. "And now we stand before you, ready to demonstrate the full extent of our capabilities. The Galactic Council has long dismissed humanity as insignificant, but that ends today." Donovan's voice grew firm, his words cutting through the tense silence. "We demand that you recognize us as equals, with all the rights and privileges afforded to the other civilizations represented here. Fail to do so, and you will face the consequences of your arrogance." The council chambers erupted into a cacophony of shouting and panicked discussions as the members grappled with the implications of Donovan's ultimatum. Karn raised his hands, his expression one of barely contained alarm. This is highly unorthodox. We must convene in private to discuss this matter further." He turned to Donovan, his gaze hardening. "Rest assured, human, we will consider your demands. But do not mistake our current shock for weakness. The Galactic Council does not take kindly to threats." Donovan merely nodded, his unwavering confidence unshaken. "I await your decision, Counselor. The future of our species hangs in the balance." As the human delegation departed, the Galactic Council members were left to confront the stark reality that had been thrust upon them. The once dismissive view of humanity had been shattered, replaced by a growing sense of unease and the realization that the balance of power in the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. The stunned silence that had fallen over the Galactic Council chambers in the wake of the human demonstration was shattered by a cacophony of raised voices and frantic discussions. Saloth, the Voshan representative, was the first to find his voice, his scales flushed with a mixture of fear and outrage. "This is an outrage. Those humans dare to threaten the might of the Galactic Council." Arlen, the Esharn ambassador, leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted in a grimace. "How is this possible? Their technology is clearly beyond what we had assumed. We must reassess the threat they pose. Karn, the Galadarian High Counselor, raised a clawed hand, silencing the din. Calm yourselves, all of you. His gaze swept across the assembled representatives, his expression uncharacteristically troubled. We must consider our options carefully. This development changes everything. Scyloth scoffed, his talons drumming against the glossy tabletop. Options. There are no options. We should crush these upstart humans before they have a chance to further undermine our authority. Arlen shook his head, his eyes narrowing. That would be unwise, Scyloth. Did you not see the power of their weapons? Any direct confrontation would be catastrophic for us. Then what do you propose? Scyloth retorted, his voice dripping with disdain. That we simply bow to their demands and accept them as equals. The Galactic Council has stood for millennia without the need for these humans. Karn raised a hand, silencing the brewing argument. Scyloth, as much as it pains me to admit, Arlen may be right. We cannot afford to underestimate the humans any longer. Their technological advancements are clearly beyond what we had anticipated. The Galadarian Councillor leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed in deep thought. We must tread carefully here. If we dismiss their ultimatum, they may very well retaliate with the full force of their weapons. But to accept them as equals would fundamentally alter the balance of power within the Galactic Council. Arlen nodded, his scales rustling softly. Precisely. This is a delicate situation that requires our utmost consideration. We cannot afford to make any rash decisions that could jeopardize the stability of the galactic order. Scyloth's talons clenched into tight fists, his eyes narrowing to slits. Stability? The humans have already shattered our stability with their blatant display of aggression. We should strike now, while we still hold the advantage. Advantage? Karn's voice was sharp, cutting through Scyloth's tirade. Have you not seen the power of their weapons? Any advantage we may have held has been thoroughly undermined. We must tread carefully, lest we invite the full wrath of the human race upon us. The Vosgian representative fell silent, his expression a mix of grudging acknowledgement and simmering resentment. The other council members exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the situation palpable in the air. Karn cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping across the gathered representatives. We will convene in private to discuss our options. This is a matter of the utmost importance, and we cannot afford to make any mistakes. The future of the Galactic Council may very well hang in the balance. As the council members filed out of the chambers, the sense of panic and unease only seemed to grow. The once confident Galactic Council now found itself in uncharted territory, forced to confront the realization that the human civilization they had so readily dismissed was now a force to be reckoned with. Donovan's ultimatum had shattered the Council's long-held sense of superiority, and the members knew that their next move would be crucial in determining the course of the galaxy's future. The balance of power had been irrevocably altered, and the Galactic Council now faced the daunting task of navigating this new and uncertain landscape. The tense silence that had settled over the Galactic Council chambers gave way to a flurry of hurried discussions as the representatives convened in a private meeting room. Karn, the Galadarian High Counselor, paced back and forth, his clawed hands clasped behind his back, his expression one of deep contemplation. This is a most troubling development, he murmured, his gaze fixed on the floor. The humans have clearly surpassed our expectations, and their demands cannot be ignored. Scyloth, the Vosgian representative, scowled, his talons drumming against the table's surface. I still say we should crush them before they have a chance to further undermine our authority. Their insolence cannot be tolerated." Arlen, the Escharan ambassador, shook his head, his scaled features etched with concern. "You have the human, Xyloth. Their weapons are more than a match for our own. Any attempt at open aggression would be suicidal." The Voshian Chancellor opened his mouth to retort, but Karn raised a clawed hand, silencing him. "Xyloth, as much as it pains me to admit, Arlen is correct. We cannot afford to provoke the humans, not with the firepower they have demonstrated." Xyloth's scales darkened with frustration, but he remained silent, his eyes narrowing to slits. Karn turned to face the other council members, his expression grave. "We must consider their demands carefully. To refuse them outright would be to invite their wrath, but to accept them as equals would fundamentally alter the very fabric of the Galactic Council." Arlen leaned forward, his reptilian gaze unwavering. "Then we must find a middle ground, a compromise that would satisfy the humans without completely upending the existing order." The other council members murmured in agreement, their brows furrowed in deep thought. Suddenly, a young Tridorian representative, her features etched with a mix of determination and apprehension, spoke up. What if we grant the humans a temporary seat on the council, with the understanding that they must prove themselves worthy of the position?" Karn regarded the young woman with a thoughtful gaze. "Explain your proposal, Aelia." Aelia straightened in her seat, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. "Well, Chancellor, we could offer the humans a probationary seat on the Galactic Council, with the stipulation that they must abide by our rules and demonstrate their commitment to the greater good of the galaxy." Xyloth scoffed, his lips curling in disdain. "Probationary? This is an outrage. The humans have the audacity to threaten us, and now you suggest we coddle them." Aelia met the Voshian's glare with unwavering determination. "I understand your concerns, Xyloth, but we must be pragmatic. The humans have shown that they possess the technological capabilities to challenge us. If we reject their demands outright, we risk inviting their wrath and the potential destruction of our civilization." Karn raised a hand, silencing the brewing argument. "Aelia raises a valid point. We cannot afford to dismiss the humans, not with the power they have demonstrated. A probationary offer may be our best path forward." The Galadarian Councillor turned to address the gathered representatives. "We will present the humans with a proposal. They will be granted a temporary seat on the Galactic Council, but they must abide by our rules and prove themselves worthy of the position. Any transgressions or attempts to undermine our authority will result in their immediate expulsion." Xyloth opened his mouth to protest, but a stern glare from Karn silenced him. "This is not an ideal solution, I know," the Galadarian Councillor continued, "but it may be the only way to avoid a potentially catastrophic confrontation. The humans have us at a disadvantage, and we must adapt accordingly." The other council members exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the decision clearly weighing on them. But in the end, they knew that Karn was right. The balance of power had shifted, and the Galactic Council had no choice but to adapt to the new reality that the humans had thrust upon them. As the meeting drew to a close, Karn couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. The future of the Galactic Council hung in the balance, and the fate of the galaxy now rested on the shoulders of the once dismissed human civilization. The tension in the air was palpable as the human delegation, led by Dr. Michael Donovan, entered the Galactic Council chambers once more. The council members, once so dismissive of humanity's capabilities, now wore expressions that ranged from thinly veiled apprehension to outright unease. Karn, the Galadarian High Councillor, stood to greet the humans, his clawed hands clasped behind his back. Greetings, Dr. Donovan. The Galactic Council has considered your demands. Donovan inclined his head slightly, his piercing blue eyes betraying a hint of anticipation. And what have you decided, Councillor? Karn cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping over the assembled representatives. The Council has agreed to grant the human civilization a temporary seat at our table, on the condition that you prove yourselves worthy of such a privilege. Siloth, the Voshan representative, leaned forward, his scales darkening with barely contained resentment. This is an outrage. We should not be forced to kowtow to these upstart humans and their threats. Donovan's expression remained impassive, but his voice held a firm edge. The humans have no desire to kowtow to anyone, Siloth. We have earned our place at this table through the ingenuity and determination of our people. Arlen, the Escharan ambassador, raised a clawed hand, silencing the Voshan's retort. Be that as it may, Dr. Donovan, the Galactic Council has existed for millennia without the need for your involvement. We are willing to grant you a temporary seat, but you must understand that your actions will be closely monitored. Aelia, the young Tridorian representative, spoke up, her scales shimmering with a touch of trepidation. If the humans can demonstrate their commitment to the principles of the Galactic Council and work towards the betterment of the galaxy as a whole, then their position may be made permanent. Donovan's gaze narrowed, his expression thoughtful. And what, precisely, would be required of us to prove our worth, as you put it? Karn cleared his throat, his weathered features etching with a hint of discomfort. You will be expected to fully integrate with the existing council structure, abiding by our laws and regulations. Any transgressions or attempts to undermine our authority will result in your immediate expulsion. Siloth nodded, his talons drumming against the table's surface. You will also be required to share your technological advancements with the rest of the Council, so that we may all benefit from your discoveries. Donovan's brow furrowed slightly, and for a moment, a flicker of unease passed across his features. I see. And what assurances can you provide that the Galactic Council will not simply take our technology and use it against us? Arlen leaned forward, his reptilian gaze unwavering. You will have our word, human, that the Council will act in good faith and use any shared technology for the betterment of the galaxy, not to subjugate your people. Donovan's expression hardened, and he exchanged a brief glance with the members of his delegation. The air in the chamber grew thick with tension as the humans deliberated in hushed whispers. Finally, Donovan straightened his shoulders and fixed the council members with a resolute stare. Very well, Councillor Karn. The humans accept your offer. We will join the Galactic Council, but be assured that we will be watching your actions closely. Any breach of trust will have severe consequences. Karn inclined his head, a flicker of relief passing across his weathered features. Excellent. Then let us proceed with the formal integration process. Welcome, Dr. Donovan, to the Galactic Council. As the human delegation filed out of the chambers, the council members exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of their decision heavy upon them. They had been forced to swallow their pride and accept the humans as equals, a concession that many still resented deeply. Siloth, in particular, seethed with a mix of resentment and apprehension. This is a grave mistake, he muttered, his talons clenching into tight fists. The humans will only bring chaos and disruption to the Galactic Council. Mark my words, this will end in disaster. Karn raised a clawed hand, silencing the Voshan's outburst. We must remain vigilant, Siloth, and ensure that the humans abide by the terms of our agreement. The future of the Galactic Council may very well depend on it. As the Council members began the arduous process of integrating the humans into their ranks, a palpable sense of unease hung in the air. The once dismissive view of humanity had been shattered, and the balance of power in the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. The question now remained, would the Galactic Council and the humans be able to coexist peacefully, or would their tenuous alliance crumble under the weight of their mutual distrust and resentment? The integration of the human delegation into the Galactic Council was a slow and arduous process, fraught with tension and mutual suspicion. Psyloth, the Voshan representative, remained staunchly opposed to the idea, his scales darkening with resentment every time Donovan and his team entered the hallowed chambers. "This is an outrage," the Voshan Chancellor would hiss, his talons drumming against the glossy tabletop. "We are granting these upstarts access to our most sensitive information and technologies. It is only a matter of time before they use it against us." Karn, the Galadarian High Counselor, would raise a calming hand, his weathered features etched with a hint of wariness. "Psyloth, you must learn to control your temper. The humans have proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, and we have no choice but to accept them as equals, at least for the time being." Arlen, the Esharan ambassador, would nod in agreement, his reptilian gaze unwavering. Karn is right. As much as it pains me to say it, the balance of power has shifted, and we must adapt accordingly. Any attempts to undermine the humans' position will only serve to invite their wrath. Aelia, the young Tridorian representative, often found herself caught in the middle of the heated debates, her scales shimmering with a mix of trepidation and resolve. "We must give the humans a chance to prove themselves," she would argue, her voice firm. "If they can demonstrate their commitment to the principles of the Galactic Council, then perhaps we can move beyond this uneasy alliance." Donovan, for his part, remained steadfast in his determination to integrate the human race into the galactic community, even as he navigated the delicate political landscape of the Council. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was confident that the ingenuity and adaptability of the human race would ultimately prevail. As the weeks turned into months, the human delegation slowly began to establish a foothold within the Galactic Council, sharing their technological advancements and contributing to the ongoing discussions and decision-making processes. Slowly, but surely, the other council members began to grudgingly acknowledge the value that the humans brought to the table. The turning point came during a crisis in the Xeno sector, where a rogue faction of the alien civilization had launched a series of devastating attacks against several colony worlds. The Galactic Council had been struggling to mount an effective response, their resources stretched thin, and their military strategies proving ineffective against the Xenos' advanced weaponry. It was then that Donovan and his team stepped forward, offering a solution that would utilize the humans' plasma cannons and cloaking technology to turn the tide of the battle. Reluctantly, the council members agreed to the plan, and the subsequent operation was a resounding success, with the human-led forces decimating the Xenos' fleet and securing the safety of the threatened colonies. The triumph was a bittersweet one for the Galactic Council, as it served to further solidify the humans' position as a valuable and indispensable member of the cosmic community. Psyloth and the other staunch opponents of the human integration were forced to grudgingly acknowledge the undeniable impact that the humans had made. As the dust settled, Karn convened a private meeting with Donovan, his expression uncharacteristically thoughtful. "Dr. Donovan, I must admit, I was skeptical of your abilities when you first presented your demands to the Council. But your actions here have proven that the humans are worthy of the privileges and responsibilities that come with being a member of the Galactic Council." Donovan inclined his head, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "I appreciate your honesty, Counselor. The humans have always strived to be more than just an afterthought in the grand scheme of the galaxy. We seek to be equal partners, working towards a brighter future for all. Carr nodded slowly, his clawed fingers drumming against the tabletop. And that is precisely what we must strive for, Dr. Donovan. The balance of power has shifted, and we must adapt accordingly. The Galactic Council will need to evolve if it is to remain a relevant and effective force in the galaxy. As the two leaders discussed the implications of this new reality, the foundation for a fragile yet promising alliance was laid. The once dismissive view of humanity had been shattered, replaced by a begrudging respect and a newfound understanding of the crucial role that the human race would play in shaping the future of the galactic community. In the years that followed the integration of the human delegation into the Galactic Council, the once uneasy alliance between the various civilizations underwent a remarkable transformation. The initial mistrust and resentment that had clouded their interactions slowly gave way to a newfound spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. Donovan, the brilliant American scientist who had spearheaded humanity's rise to galactic prominence, found himself at the forefront of this change, working tirelessly to bridge the cultural divides and foster a sense of unity among the Council members. We must recognize that our differences are what make the Galactic Council strong. Donovan would often argue during the heated debates that still occasionally flared up. It is by embracing our diversity and pooling our collective knowledge that we will be able to face the challenges that lie ahead. Sci-Fi, the Vosgian representative who had been the most vocal opponent of the human integration, gradually began to soften his stance, his scales no longer darkening with resentment every time Donovan spoke. The Vosgian had been forced to confront the reality that the humans' technological prowess was a crucial asset in the Council's ongoing efforts to maintain stability and peace throughout the galaxy. "I still do not fully trust these humans," Xyloth would mutter to Arlen, the Escharan ambassador, during their private discussions. "But I cannot deny the value they have brought to the Council. Their innovations have proven invaluable in our battles against the Xeno incursions and other threats." Arlen would nod solemnly, his reptilian gaze betraying a hint of thoughtfulness. "Indeed, Tyloth, the humans have earned their place at this table, even if it galls us to admit it. We must learn to work alongside them, for the good of the galaxy." As the Council members slowly adjusted to their new dynamic, the collaboration between the various civilizations began to bear fruit. Breakthroughs in quantum computing, warp drive technology, and advanced medical research emerged from the shared pool of knowledge, ushering in a new era of unprecedented progress and prosperity. Alia, the young Tridorian representative who had initially championed the human integration, found herself at the forefront of many of these groundbreaking initiatives, her boundless enthusiasm and innovative thinking inspiring her fellow Council members. "Can you imagine, Donovan?" she would exclaim, her scales shimmering with excitement. "With our combined resources and expertise, the things we could accomplish, cures for deadly diseases, the exploration of uncharted regions of space, the development of technologies that could benefit every civilization in the galaxy." Donovan would smile, his blue eyes sparkling with a sense of wonder. "I can, Elia, and I believe that we are only just scratching the surface of what the Galactic Council can achieve when we work together as true partners." The ripple effects of this newfound cooperation soon became apparent throughout the galaxy. Trade agreements were forged, cultural exchanges flourished, and the once separate civilizations began to view one another not as rivals, but as allies in the grand quest for a better future. Karm, the Galadarian High Counselor, who had initially been hesitant about the human integration, found himself marveling at the transformation that had taken place under his watch. "To think, We almost dismissed these humans as insignificant, he murmured to himself, his weathered features etched with a sense of wonder. How fortunate we are that they proved us wrong. As the Galactic Council continued to evolve and adapt to the changing tides of the galaxy, the once dismissive view of humanity had been replaced by a deep respect and appreciation for the pivotal role they played in shaping the future. The balance of power had indeed been irrevocably altered, but in the end, it had led to a brighter, more prosperous tomorrow for all the civilizations represented in the hallowed halls of the Council. Donovan, standing tall and proud alongside his fellow council members, couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. The humans had proven their worth, and in doing so, had secured their rightful place among the stars. The future was now theirs to forge, and Donovan knew that the possibilities were truly limitless. As the Galactic Council adjourned for the day, the air humming with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism, the brilliant scientist couldn't help but smile. The long-held dreams of humanity had finally come to fruition, and the impact they had made would be felt for generations to come.